Hello and welcome back to the second part of my introductory lecture to Interconnected World. Why does geography matter? In the first part we asked, what is geography? And if you remember, the answer we gave was from the great Chinese-American geographer Yi-Fu Tuan, who said that geography is the study of the earth as the home of humanity. And in this second part of the lecture, having asked what is geography, we're going to ask, why study geography? Why does geography matter? And this is an important question because you have chosen to invest years of your life, thousands of pounds, on the study of geography when you could have been doing something else with your lives. So why study geography? And I want to think of 7 reasons that can be given for the study of geography. And the first is to get a job. The careers service at Newcastle will try and sell Newcastle as a place to study because it can help you get a good job. And no doubt when you had open days, this was what you heard. And throughout your time at Newcastle, they'll contact you and try and help you get jobs and choose careers and things. Now, this is fine and it's important, but it is not the best reason to study geography. And so don't worry yet in your first year about jobs and careers and all these sorts of things. Alexander Solzhenitsyn was a Nobel Prize winner and a Russian dissident, someone who questioned the Soviet system and spent many years in prison as a result. And he said this, he said, decline to scramble up the career ladder. Nothing is more boring than a man with a career. I like that. Nothing is more boring than a man with a career. I mean, if you make a career your goal, you will be disappointed, and you will be a disappointing person as well. I can think of people I know whom I studied with who pursue careers, if you like, high-earning careers, and they earn a lot more money than me, but none of them enjoy their jobs as much as I do. So don't seek a career, seek a vocation. Find out what you're meant to do and do it. That's the first reason to study geography, a job. The second reason to study geography is power. The picture behind me is a picture of President Obama looking at a map donated to the White House by the National Geographical Society in June 2010. And modern geography, map making if you like, is a process, is a technique that emerged in order to exercise power. Governments need need maps to administer their territory, to work out what is theirs, to organise their systems of government. The modern map making began this way. If any of you like hill climbing, and I hope you'll do some hill climbing in Northumberland while you're here, you'll get an ordnance survey map. Ordnance, this is artillery weaponry, munitions. The Ordnance Survey began to help British artillery gunners in the Napoleonic Wars fight the French. Geography is about power. Christopher Marlowe, a contemporary of Shakespeare, wrote this wonderful play called Tamerlane the Great, and there's one line in it, and I can't remember it exactly, but he says, "Show me a map that I may know what is left of the world to conquer." And it was based on Amor Timur, who built a great empire in Central Asia in the 14th century. Maps are about power. The study of geography is a way to enable governments to exercise power. And that's another reason why people might study geography. A third reason why people might choose to study geography is justice. When we look at the inequalities in the world, when we see that simply to be born in some places gives you so many more life chances than to be born in others, something inside us, this sense of justice, reacts and says, this is not right. This is not right. The image behind me shows life chances at birth. and it shows how infant mortality is so much greater in some parts of the world than in others. Now, these are not just figures and numbers. I want to show you, the picture I'm showing now behind me is of a family in the Kyrgyz city of Osh. In 1997, I went to Kyrgyzstan to teach English at a university there, and as a way to travel around and to start learning language and begin preparation for a PhD. And I arrived at this city, the city of Osh, and I was sitting at a bus stop. And I'd learned Uzbek in a neighbouring country, and I was sitting at the bus stop, and three young guys sat next to me. We got talking. They were Uzbeks, a minority living in Kyrgyzstan, and they couldn't believe it. They'd never met someone from Europe or America before, and they wanted to talk. And when they found I could speak Uzbek, they were really excited. So they're asking me sorts of questions, how old I was, if I was married, what I was doing, and then the other two drifted off. And the guy who's circled in that picture there, one of my best friends called Elbek, he became my best friend, said to me, "Where are you living?" And I said, "I haven't got anywhere to live." He said, "Come and stay with me." So I just disappeared and went to his family. He lived on a farm, and I lived for 3 months in his family, and I offered them food. I offered them money. They wouldn't take any. "You are a guest in our home," they said, this great hospitality that one often sees in Muslim countries and cultures. And then Elbek became a good friend of mine, and we've stayed in touch with the family all this time. And 13 years ago, we each had sons born at almost exactly the same time. This is a picture of my son from a few years ago, but I cannot show you a picture of Elbek's son because his son died. And his son died because he caught a sort of dysentery type illness and was taken to hospital, and after about a month he died. I wasn't there at the time, I didn't know, I couldn't help. And this is what life chances are about. You see, if he had been born in Britain, in Newcastle, would have taken him to the doctors, he'd have gone to the RVI, he'd have had antibiotics, he would have been fine. But because he was born in a country without good access to healthcare and without good sanitation, there isn't running water, safe running water in the village they live, he died. This is what life chances are about. So geography is about looking at the inequalities in the world and asking, how can we do something about this? Geography is about justice. The fourth reason to study geography is wonder. The Situationists, a group of thinkers, said in 1968, "We do not want a world in which the guarantee that we will not die of starvation is bought by the risk of dying of boredom." We do not want a world in which the guarantee that we will not die of starvation is bought by the risk of dying of boredom. And what they meant was, yeah, think about justice, that's fine, but don't forget the picture, the bigger picture of wonder at human life. Albert Einstein, the great scientist, said this. He said, "The fairest thing we can experience is the mysterious. He who knows it not, who can no longer wonder, can no longer feel amazement, is as good as dead." The image behind me is of the Cassini probe. This was a probe that was sent to study the rings and moons of Saturn. It was launched in 1997, and in 2017 it plunged down to its destruction in Saturn's atmosphere, and before it burnt up, it sent its last images and findings. So this mission took 20 years and it cost $3 billion and ended in a ball of flame. But to my mind, it was worth every penny, because it's about trying to understand our world. I did my PhD in Cambridge, and I used to regularly go past the Cavendish laboratories, and there's a photo behind me, and the Cavendish laboratories was the laboratory where the structure of the atom was first identified. It was one of the world's first modern laboratories, a hugely significant site in our understanding of the world and modern science. And the inscription above it is very interesting. And it's in Latin, and it's from the book of Psalms in the Hebrew Bible. And it says this, it says, "How many are the works of the Lord? They are studied by all who delight in them." How many are the works of the Lord? They are studied by all who delight in them. And modern European science grew out of this medieval Christian worldview that God had made a wonderful world, and one of the most noble things a human could do was to study this world and to understand this world, and in so doing you were thinking the Creator's thoughts after him. Wonder. Peter Haggett, in his book The Geographer's Art, said, "One of the delights of life as a geographer is that it provides a copper-bottomed excuse to spend time in the oddest places in the world." And we live in a world of amazing human cultures and achievements and creations. And one of my delights in life is to spend time in Central Asia, which is where my research is on, exploring the cultures and states and borders and landscapes and cities of that part of the world. The image behind me is of Simon Reeves. He is a TV travel presenter. I wonder if you've seen any of his programs. I met him at a party once. I went to Istanbul just for a party and met him there. He's a great guy, and his programs are really good. And 2 years ago, he visited Newcastle, and he gave a lecture. He was asked in this, he said, "What are the benefits of going travelling?" And he said this, he said, "Travel teaches us that we should not live life on our knees. It's a wonderful and immediate way of pushing our buttons and exciting our senses. We have an enormous planet full of 7 billion stories and magnificent sights to see and incredible food to eat. Anyone who isn't mortgaging their grandparents to get out in the big world needs their head examined." Now, of course, I'm not giving you official Newcastle University advice on plundering your grandparents, but what I am saying is wonder at the world. And of course, you don't have to travel at all to wonder in the world. You can do it through a microscope and through a book. Wonder is a very important motivation for studying geography. I mentioned earlier my children. When my children were young, I told them the worst swear word in the world is boring. And as I lecture to you over the course of this year, in the 3 years you're here, I don't ultimately really care whether you agree with me or not. That doesn't matter. But if I bore you, if I send you to sleep, then email me and I will resign. I mean it. There is no greater crime than to bore people. Geography is about understanding the wonderful world. And if I'm ever boring, let me know and I will resign or change my lectures. So that's the fourth reason to study geography, wonder. And the fifth reason is love. My colleague Alistair Bonnet, whom you will hopefully come to meet in the course of your time here, wrote in a book that we are a place-loving species. We are a place-loving species. Our personal stories are wrapped in places. We decorate them, we beautify them, we defend them, we argue over them. This is what we've recently had party conference. It's the party conference season at the moment. The main parties, and all of these parties, whichever one you agree with or disagree with, they're fundamentally about caring for our country. And they have different visions of how to do that. And ultimately, of course, war is about struggling for places that people love. And to my mind, it's a very misplaced way of struggling. But we are a place-loving species, and geography is worth studying because of love. I'd like you for a moment just to pause and close your eyes. Close your eyes and think of a place that you love. Maybe it's a place you're missing at the moment. as you've come to Newcastle, or a place you can't go to. Think about that place, visualize it. What is it that you love about it? How do you feel as you imagine yourself there? You can open your eyes again. For me, the place I was thinking about was Gosforth Nature Reserve. And it's a nature reserve in the north of our city. And I often walk my dog around the woods and fields and streams in that area. And one of the reasons I love Gosforth Nature Reserve is that there's a colony of purple hairstreak butterflies there. One of my hobbies, if you like, is butterfly spotting and rearing butterflies and moths. And the purple hairstreak is a very, very wonderful butterfly. The males sleep until after lunch, and they lie sunbathing on the tops of trees, waiting for females to emerge. And they will only leave the top of the tree to eat and drink or to fight other males. And so they are a very difficult species to spot. And a few years ago, there was a plan to build houses all around the nature reserve. Government wants to build more houses. And there was a campaign organised locally to resist this. And petitions were signed and parliamentarians were contacted. And we were threatening to lie down in front of the bulldozers. And in the end, we won that and those houses weren't built. Because although they wouldn't have been built on the nature reserve itself, they'd have been built around it. And the deer, etc., which live in that reserve, crossed the fields. It would have ruined the nature reserve. And we fought those planning proposals because we love that place. Actually, do you want to hear a joke? I was walking there the other day and I found a skull. So obviously, I was quite upset and I called the police. And while I was waiting for the police to arrive, I got curious and I picked up the skull, and I thought to myself, who was this guy and why did he have deer antlers? Okay, you've not come here for the jokes. So that's the fifth reason to study geography, love. And the sixth reason to study geography is longing. How can I describe what I mean? Do you know the experience of when you feel an overwhelming sense of longing? Something that's more intense than pain or pleasure, that makes you feel more alive than at any other moment. Maybe it's something you feel, a sudden stab of pain or joy you feel when you hear certain music or read a certain novel or look at a certain painting or stand on the top of a mountain or hold a newborn baby. Do you know what I mean? I think you do. Well, C.S. Lewis, who was the author of the Narnia Chronicles and a professor at Cambridge University of English, used the German word Sehnsucht for this, and he described it, he termed this longing as joy. And these moments, he said, in a famous lecture he gave called The Weight of Glory, these moments are the scent of a flower we have not found, the echo of a tune we have not heard, news from a country we have never yet visited. And for me, this sense of longing is what drives me in a way to explore the politics and society of Central Asia. It's something I satisfy in exploring the world. And I do that, of course, from my own research, but through the imagination of others as I read their work and listen to their work. And so longing is a good reason to study geography. And the final reason, the seventh reason I want to give for studying geography is salvation. Salvation. And this is an expression that was used by Yi-Fu Tuan. You remember I introduced him in the last lecture video. He was the Chinese-American geographer who defined geography as the study of the earth as the home of humanity. And he wrote in a wonderful book, which is your guided reading for this lecture. He wrote of the joy of experiencing the beauty of places, of soaring through three-dimensional space in a plane and looking down, of being in places that foster warmth and welcome in societies. But for him, that's why he started studying geography. But he said more. He said for him, geography was a way of thinking about meaning and reason and purpose. And he gave an example of when he was 12, he had a nightmare. And in this nightmare, he dreamt he was going to die. And he woke up in a cold sweat. Whoa, what a relief. It was just a dream. But then he realised, actually, I am going to die one day. We all are. I am, you are. This is true of all of us. And for him, he said, geography helped him think on why he is on Earth, why he chooses to remain alive, what the point of existence is, how to make the most of life. For him, he said, geography is a way of salvation, of helping him reflect on these big questions of life. And I would agree with that. And I want to tell you briefly about why I study geography. Because every lecturer whom you will encounter this year, everyone who teaches you, every book you will read, every article you will be set to study, every single of those authors comes from a certain perspective. And I would encourage you to work out where those perspectives are. Some of my colleagues will be Marxists, some will be atheists, some will be feminists, some will be positivists. That basically means people who think there are simple facts in the world to be found and they don't need any interpretation. Now, all of these are subject positions. They influence the way that they teach geography to you. And this is called positionality. It's an important word. It's a word you'll hear about more in your time at Newcastle. And what it basically means is the position you occupy in history and culture affects the way that you understand the world and the way you teach it. And so my challenge is, as you listen to us and as we teach you, try and work out where we're coming from. Don't take it as gospel. Don't take for granted what we say. Critically engage with us and think with us. And this is true of all my colleagues, and of course it's true of me. You need to know where I come from to understand my lectures. So for me, like C.S. Lewis and like Solzhenitsyn and like the person who designed the Cavendish laboratories, I am a follower of Jesus. I believe that God made an extraordinarily wonderful world and that our Creator wants us to live in harmony with Him and with each other and with the environment, that He wants us to secure justice between peoples and to be good and careful stewards of His handiwork, which is creation. And that's our task. And for me, studying geography is a way of helping me think about how to do that. It's a way of helping me understand how we can manage it, why we don't manage it, and what we can do to change it. And I want to finish by asking, what about you? Where do you come from? What's your positionality? I mean, I hope that you will have a great first year at Newcastle and a great 3 years if you're here that long. I really hope that you'll enjoy this module and everything we teach you, that you'll learn from it. But what I hope it will do is fundamentally is it will cause you to reflect on what the point of life is and how you will use your energies and skills and talents and opportunities in your life while you are here on planet Earth. What it means to live in this interconnected world as a home for humanity, and how you will contribute to making it a better home. So study hard and play hard and get the most out of your time at Newcastle and out of this course. Look me up anytime you want to. You can, my contact details at the end of this lecture. I love engaging and talking to students. So I hope to connect with you at some point during this year. In the meantime, have a great time at university, and I look forward to lecturing you later in this module. Thank you so much for your attention.
yeah, yeah, yeah.